In the Sundays following Easter, I'm preaching on the post-resurrection appearances of Christ. These moments in history are important for two reasons. One, they are the final episodes of the physical earthly sojourn of Jesus in our world. As such, they contain important teachings of our Lord, both by example and by exhortation. Second, they serve as the most important proofs of the resurrection itself. The sermons in this series focus mostly on the teachings that we receive from these occasions. I would, for a moment, however, like for us to focus on the fact that these accounts provide overwhelming proof of the resurrection. As we see in these appearances, there is substantial evidence of the resurrection. There are no less than 6 explicit occasions. Each of these record separate events recorded by eyewitnesses and reporters who talked to eyewitnesses. In addition to these particular events, there is a reference by Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 6, to the fact that Jesus on one occasion was seen by over 500 witnesses. Paul also states that most of these 500 people are still alive, suggesting perhaps that they could be interviewed to attest to the facts. Taken together, these appearances constitute more compelling evidence that Jesus was resurrected than there is evidence that there was a man of ancient Greece, Athens in fact, by the name of Socrates, who was condemned by a trial of his peers for corrupting the youth and was forced to drink hemlock as a poison. This widely accepted fact is never disputed, while the resurrection of Jesus is challenged by some. Some have challenged the fact of the resurrection on the grounds that Jesus was never dead. This idea is ludicrous on its face. The Romans were not fools. When they certified someone as dead, they were dead. Anyone who would toy with certain death of a convicted person would himself be put to death. There is no record or hint that the Romans addressed this claim of resurrection, let alone executing someone for perpetrating such a fraud. Furthermore, the description of what happened before Jesus was taken from the cross, specifically when they thrust a spear into his side, is modern medical evidence of a dead body. Second, some have challenged the fact of the resurrection on the grounds that the disciples made it all up. This idea does not hold water either. The disciples were a discouraged, disillusioned mess following the crucifixion. They had seen their leader die on a cross, if they were present. Historical accounts suggest that only John, with Jesus' mother Mary, were present at the very end. But they had all heard first-hand accounts. The account of the 2 men on the road to Emmaus and the group they joined that evening is telling. They were so distraught that they did not even recognize Jesus when he was with them. They could not have made it up. It took the appearance of Jesus to the disciples breaking bread and praying to finally convince them. Third, some have challenged the fact of the resurrection on the grounds that only the followers of Jesus give account of the resurrection. But Josephus, a Jewish historian for the Romans, records in his Antiquities, number 18, number 33, where he says, "At this time there was a wise man, Jesus, good and virtuous, and many people from among the Jews and the other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die, and those who had become his disciples did not abandon his discipleship. They reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion and that he was alive." Likewise, Tacitus, in his Annals, number 1544, says, "Nero punished with the most exquisite tortures the persons commonly called Christians, who were hated for their enormities. Christus, the founder of the name, was put to death by Pontius Pilate, procurator of Judea, in the reign of Tiberius. But the pernicious superstition, repressed for a time, broke out again, not only through Judea, where the mischief originated, but through the city of Rome also. This is evidence of the widely known accounts of the resurrection of Jesus. While falling short of endorsing the resurrection, these accounts by contemporary secular leaders clearly record the historical fact of the person and the crucifixion of Jesus, as well as the contemporary accounts of the resurrection. It was such a fact of history that at the time of Nero, it was an issue in Rome itself, not confined to the area of Palestine and Judea. So, as we look into the post-resurrection appearances of Jesus, let us be assured of the fact of the resurrection, and let us take seriously what these appearances can teach us.